Coach, you guys get all the way up to the state game last year. It didn't work out the way you wanted to, but still a tremendous run there through last season. And like every other school in the area and high schools all across the state, you guys have your fair share of guys that you lose to graduation, but it gives the younger guys a chance to step in and show what they can do. Looking over your roster, a lot of returning names, a lot of familiar faces that we see. And we'll start where I think a lot of the emphasis is put on football, regardless of what level you're playing. But that quarterback position, Curtis Wilderman comes back. Looks like he will be the guy that leads the offense this year. What kind of growth have you seen out of Curtis during the offseason?
Well, mental growth has been great. Curtis really has, and picked up last year as time went on. Much better job of reading defenses. Physical growth, actually, he's lost a few pounds. He's gotten a step quicker, so that's a good thing for him. But he's worked very hard in the off season, and he's in the mix right now for sure. He's doing a great job, and Rob Bull is still getting some reps too. So I think we have two very good quarterbacks.
Well, you had a young man that we, and I won't speak for Jimmy, but I really enjoyed watching, and he really caught our eye his sophomore year. I think it was the Lewisburg game, if I'm not mistaken. But you've lost him to graduation, and that was Julian Widener, who was a tremendous asset on both sides of the ball. How do you replace a guy like Julian, and is there a young man on the team now that looks to fill that role?
Well, we'd have to probably do that by committee. We're not going to replace Julian. He was one of a kind for us. Just had a lot of natural ability, natural quickness. He could, step up to a different gear when he needed to. Just a great gifted athlete. And, he kept us in and put us ahead in a lot of games in his career. But, we got a group of guys right now that are working, and they're looking for their chance. So we're excited.
Well, Coach, one of the names that stood out last year, and he's had a pretty stellar career as well, has been a part of the varsity team, well, for 4 years. He came up his freshman year in the playoffs, but then after that has taken off. And that's Drake Rickard. Drake ran for over 1,300 yards last year, so I would think there's a little bit of kind of filling in the Widener aspect. But Drake is not only offensively but defensively is just kind of a shutdown defensive back. This kid, I guess, he's just one of those guys that there's only talented is the word that comes out. I mean, there's just not enough to be said about him, is there?
Well, Drake, he 1,300 yards last year is the first time in Mater Dei history. We had two rushers over 1,000 yards, and Drake and Julian. But Drake really came in big for us, let's say in the Triton Central game, but really all through the season. He was just so dependable, and he was that 1-2 punch of Julian and Drake, and they give credit to their offensive line blocking, but Drake is now a team captain, and he's very experienced. He started every game as a sophomore. Did the same thing last year on both sides of the ball, and we expect him to do more of that, only take more of a leadership role this year.
Well, you talk about that offensive line, both lines actually, offensive and defensive. You guys have been pretty big now for a few years, and that was the thing with Mater Dei for a while, several years back, is size across the board maybe wasn't there. But it has been lately. Let's talk a little bit about, I know Kyle Dennis is coming back. Kyle's incredible. He's really solid. Should go all-state this year, I would think. And but one of the other names, too, which is a big name in Mater Dei, the history of Mater Dei, they just seem to keep coming. I don't know how many kids are in that family, but Michael Boots is just a sophomore, got some playing time as a freshman last year. How you feeling going into this opening night against or with the offense and defensive line? How you feeling about how they're progressing?
Well, you said it correctly with Kyle Dennis being back. He's one of our captains, and he's been a mainstay. He started every game as a center since his sophomore year, and he's been through some big, tough competitions. He also starts on the defensive side of the ball as of last year, and he'll be there again this year. So that's a great place to start. To have the two guys that touch the ball in every play back, that should give you a little bit of momentum and, coming into the season. So the center's back and the quarterback. But along with Kyle, of course, is Michael Boots. He's going to be starting on both sides of the ball as well. And, he's just a sophomore, but he does not play like a sophomore. We're impressed with him. he's a little bit over 200 pounds. But Tristan Watts is a starting guard for a second year. He's a senior now, and he'll get some defensive time as well. And Jacob Solomon is also a returning starter from the offensive guard position. So we do have three of our linemen starters back on offense. Kyle was the only full-time starter on defense, but we got some guys that are, enthusiastic and working real hard to get the opportunity to play.
Mater Dei head coach Mike Goebel joining us. And, Coach, you guys start the season ranked number 1 in a preseason poll in Class 2A. I would imagine you've got a good group of young men over there. I would imagine they probably don't put a lot of thought into that. Has it been discussed? Do you just ignore it? Do you even bring it up and say we're not worried about that kind of stuff? How do you address that to make sure their heads don't get too big before you even step on the field?
Well, I think they're a pretty intelligent group, and they understand that any ranking at this point preseason is a carryover from last year. And Rensselaer, they basically had a very good game against us, and they're gone up to 3A now, so I would imagine that's why it falls the way it does. Monrovia is lurking in the regionals, and they've got everyone back, and that was a whale of a game last year. So who knows? It's way too early to even look at any of that. We'll just try to do our best each and every week to get, to a competitive level. We got guys like Rob Bowe and Blake Jordan, a number of players who will help out Jackson Picorni, to name a few that are back and have some veteran experience behind them. So they're all working for this season. They were part of last year, but they understand that was last year, and they got to start all over just like every other team.
Well, just as Julian Widener was on offense, you lose a defensive captain, another coach on the field, and just a great guy all the way around as far as we knew. I mean, had a chance to talk with him a few times. Logan McCann graduates. So who steps in for kind of the leadership role at that line? Linebackers are basically kind of run the defense, it seems. Who steps in a little bit and kind of takes over that captain role on defense?
Well, we're still working on that. Right now it's by committee. Hunter Carr is playing linebacker for us. He's a senior. Seth Orth played quite a bit last year, but he was not a regular starter. He did get into the games more when Logan was injured, and his season ended in the second game of the sectional. And Rob Bowe is going to be playing some linebacker for us. He's just a heady player. He's so versatile. He plays offense, receiver, offense, running back, quarterback, and now he's going from safety to linebacker. So and he does our kicking. So he's a valuable, versatile player for us. And we've got some other guys in the mix trying to establish themselves, because linebacker we're relatively inexperienced there.
You guys will open the season on Saturday against Indianapolis Northwest. Kickoff scheduled for 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon at the Wrights Bowl. What do you know about this team? If anything, it's a team you guys faced in the non-conference part of your schedule last season. And what are some keys to the game to come out of there and start the season off with a win?
Well, as far as information on Northwest, we don't really have a lot. We're getting some information piecemeal. But we know that last year when we went up, they were in disarray. A lot of the kids didn't have uniforms. They lost several players who couldn't play because of academic reasons. But they only graduated 3 seniors from a year ago, and viewing some of their scrimmages from the summer, they look like they're much more organized. They have a new head coach who was an assistant last year, so the carryover is there. And I think Northwest is, on the verge of making a comeback as far as competitive program. They did not win a game last year, but they were in tight contests. So we're expecting a good game from them, a good measure for us, see where we are. Hopefully we come out, obviously, with our help and try to figure some of the pieces out of who's actually going to be in that lineup. I guess a lot of teams might be set. We are not. We're still trying to figure things out. So Saturday is going to be a great situation, great learning experience for us to get a few pieces of the puzzle put together.
That's Mater Dei head coach Mike Goebel. Coach, best of luck on Saturday afternoon and throughout the rest of the season. We'll talk again soon.
Well, thanks, Ryan and Jimmy. It's great talking with you guys again, and that means football's in the air, so
It
we're all
does.
happy at the moment.